Welcome to the first in the many Thriving Life podcast episodes. What? And I am joined by my dear, badass, unicorn, brilliant, I would say, friends, colleagues, soul buddies, the unicorn ninjas from all around the world. But they are here to be on the podcast with us called The Thriving Life. And I'm so happy everyone is here. First, I want to introduce Adam Lamb. Adam is actually the producer of the show, but also quite a brilliant thought leader in and of himself, who has been on his own journey, much like Jeannie Selda. So welcome. Thriving Life podcast. It is time to actually take the conversations we've been having and streaming and bring them into the world of really assisting as many people as we can to have a space to navigate that sense of urgency inside, that there's something more to life, and to free yourself from the overwhelm that comes from not knowing how to bridge into that clarity. Really, it's about surviving this life is one way of living, and how you know you're surviving is that you don't feel clear. It feels overwhelming. It feels like a quantum leap. You don't feel experienced. Into a place of thriving where you actually get to understand the physics of living in overflow in every way. I want you to know that we are right with you. We've had struggles, and we are constantly receiving and researching and on that leading edge, looking for the people and the bodies of work that truly help to quantum leap our thinking. Some of the struggles you might have are things like feeling stuck, feeling like these are times of great change, and you go back to your amygdala and try to keep yourself safe. There might be an unfulfilled sense that you haven't gotten on with getting on with what you're on the planet for. And how do you answer this question? What's the greatest thing I can do with the least amount of effort, using the skills I already have that would have you waking up inspired and going to bed knowing that you did what you came to the planet for? That's what this show answers. We exist to provide you with guests and tools and insights and ways to, again, quantum leap your way of being in life so that you can find joy and ease and flow, and you can actually follow the threads of that little sense of urgency inside that there's something more. If you're going through a big change and you're a pretty successful person, but all of a sudden something's calling you, you don't know how to do that, you don't know how to get there, we're going to be talking about all sorts of things that are going to bring you into flow. So this podcast, it addresses your sense that it could be easier. It addresses this idea that we can transform. And not only that we can transform, that we can go into a whole other way of being. It's all about that thriving operating system. And Adam Lamb and Jeannie Selda and myself are well-versed in that thriving operating system and are in a constant state of mastery.
I think
evolving state.
Yeah, I'd like to think that we have a little bit of mastery around it. But speaking for myself, I know that there's times when I dip out of that too, right? And I think that's what's so powerful about this podcast, is because it serves as a reminder when I might need it. And I don't always have the time or the focus to be able to look at a video or go on social media, but I listen to podcasts all the time doing all kinds of different things. I think it's a wonderful way to, again, remind myself back to myself, because I think we all need it every once in a while. It can be incredibly overwhelming. Don't you think, Jeannie?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And podcasts for me I look for the easiest way, especially when I love driving in the country. And it's for me, when I'm feeling overwhelmed or feeling pulled, seeing, okay, show me a podcast that would just help me remember, reset. Just feel good.
It's funny, Adam, you just said every once in a while we need something. I'm like, every once in a while. Okay, every once in a while redefined as I need that once an hour, right?
Yep.
And sometimes I make those quantum leaps, and full transparency, in this podcast, we are definitely going to provide some, let's say, platform to be able to make some quantum leaps instead of just provide the platform and the information. That might happen in the first podcast. It might happen in every podcast. You might have, I feel like I'm talking about orgasms right now. It might happen. I know.
Wow.
I know I went there. But anyways, it's really where you're at. But we are so excited to be able to gather with fellow unicorn badass ninjas who maybe are looking how to quantum leap that badassery into another place. We don't need to feel stuck. All the information is there. You know what I mean, you guys? Like, I think of you way back when, and you guys are going to find out that we know each other so well. We've been working together for a long time. But Jeannie, I'm thinking about way back when I met you 30,000 years ago. and we were talking. I know this is wrong. I shouldn't say this right up front, but you came into the workshop. I knew you had a lot going on because you had twin boys, but you would walk into the workshop and for 3 days in a row, you walked in with either the sweater on backwards or the tag up outside, or it was pretty funny. And so what are two concepts that have changed your life since then? What are two awarenesses that have taken you from a state of not even knowing that you weren't present to yourself to today where, God, I go to you to activate my presence? What are the two biggest concepts do you think that happened?
I think for me, the two biggest things that I always carry with me is actually it's the carrying versus caring. And for me, that was such a huge shift because I didn't even know that was an option. And I still remember that first day when I took your get out of your own way course back in Markham. It's like, what would make you happy? And I just found that to be so unbelievably unfamiliar because as a mom of twin boys, the last thing on my mind was my happiness. And when you started talking about carrying versus caring, it was such a shift of being able to recognize all the things that I actually carried. The good mom, the good wife, the good girl, the house, even the fears of how the boys would be or my parenting, the way I was in business, and to be able to discern that in my everyday life, it's okay. How would I show up if I carried nothing and no one, including myself? And for me, being also able to identify that when I'm carrying is when I'm actually feeling irritable or when I'm feeling tired, when I'm feeling uninspired, things like that. And you also touched upon this a couple of minutes ago. The second thing is presence. It's like I always watched myself having to get somewhere. You know, it was hedging my bets or taking score too soon. I never really learned the importance of being here right now in this present moment. It's like, what does it look like to be present, to be in my presence in this present moment? And especially in my race and culture, it's always getting somewhere. I got to do that. I got to do the laundry. I got to clean the house. I have to take the kids here. I got to plan this to feel safe versus what does it look like to actually be right here, right now without any of the pullings. That was huge for me.
Yeah, totally get it. And Lamb, I'm gonna take it to you as well. And I gotta say, Jeannie, the whole idea of carrying what helps me even today because I still carry stuff. It's like I was so blind to how much I worry about things and people. And it's not to say that I'm turning into an evil bad person because I don't care anymore. But carrying takes up space in my brain, and it costs me being able to be present to what's actually wanting to live through me, what's inspiring me right now, because I'm so busy being there for somebody else or something else, which is worrying about it. Then what happens is, with respect to the podcast or with respect to my husband or respect to my household, what happens when I don't carry is I'm available for the things that actually do inspire me. What happens is that I make quantum evolutions as opposed to these linear evolutions where I'm just doing what a good girl or a good wife or a good house owner should do. I'm just not interested in that. It's meh. It's MEH, meh. Adam, the person who I know is least meh in my entire life. I don't even think you've ever said the word. So
Yeah.
Get out of here.
In a different context, not literally. But I would say, so one thing I really got, one of the things that I've come to appreciate is being around this work, taking the work, hanging out with people like Jeannie and Susanna and so many others and Sonia, is that not only is there implicit learnings within the work, but there's also learnings that we get to share with one another. So one of the things I think that almost started it for me was sitting in the circle and get out of your own way. And we went through the identity exercise. Write down all the identities that you are. Which ones do you like? Which ones do you don't like? Which ones do you think you chose consciously? And then you get done writing all that stuff. And then you throw the notebook in the center of the room and go, okay, so now who you are. And I'm like, I felt completely naked for the first time in a long time. Not that I don't mind being naked. It was just like, oh my God, I didn't have anything to hide behind anymore.
But what identity were you wanting? Did you want to but I want my book back. Can I?
Oh, the rebel for sure.
Oh,
the rebel. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Because I'd been holding on to that for so long, right? Going all the way back to probably 13, 14, 15 years old. And so that was a hard, and not to say that throwing my book in the center of the room actually shifted anything, but it was an awareness for me. So who am I really? And I had to come back down. I'm just a big goofy guy that likes to be in a relationship with people. I like to talk, I laugh, I like to be playful. And I hadn't been playful in many years. So for me, that was a huge aha. And I was having a conversation with Jeannie, and we went through this phase where we were calling our egos by a specific name. So to differentiate that voice in your head as someone other than you, even though it's all you, there's a portion of our psyche and brain that is always going to have us fall back into a defensive or a safe position. That's the ego's job, is to make sure that we don't get eaten by the lions and stuff. But as we become more evolved, we've taken on emotional pain. Our brain recognizes emotional pain just as much as physical pain. And that's what PTSD is all about, like being back in that remembrance and having it shock us in our body. But I remember Jeannie just telling me, I was telling her what Sluggo was saying one day, and she said, just agree with him.
Sluggo is, what is Sluggo?
I nicknamed my ego Sluggo, and that's from the old Nancy comics, spiky hair and walking down the alleyway. And that was a great interior visual for me. But he's talking crap about you're not going to do this and probably don't want to try that, and you're going to fail anyway, and which is his way of saying, hey, dude, don't put yourself out there. This is going to hurt, and I don't want you to be hurt. And Jeannie said, just agree. And I'm like, okay. All right. So I go, you know what? You're right. Yeah, I'm no good. I can't do that. And the weird thing is that voice immediately fell silent because there was no contrast there, right? There was no energy to push against it. I made it okay. That was the reality for him. And that played a huge part in my experience with ayahuasca that I wrote about in my book, Initiated Men. Finally, there was a scene where me and my ego are sitting in this movie theater, and he's drunk below me and he's yelling because he's hammered. And I walked down there, and the screen was playing my life. And instead of going down there and fighting with him, I just grabbed him, put him in a headlock, and gave him a good noogie in the top of his head, going, I love you, brother. It's okay. It's all good. And then he just fell asleep in his chair. So it was a unique representation of that particular moment that I had with Jeannie, plant medicine ceremony. Yeah. And those two things have lasted with me for a while. And I just want to say, for those who are just now experiencing this podcast, and the work that we do. I can promise you one thing, that this is not any of us sitting up on a soapbox telling you what to do. These are things that we've been going through. We just have a little bit more experience and maybe a slightly different perspective. And we're not going to show up on this podcast as having it all handled, because I think the power comes from the transparency and the vulnerability of our journeys. Because when I can see myself in someone else's story, for me, that makes a huge difference.
Amen.
Amen. So it brings me to something that happened last night. And before I share that story, I just want to say, you guys, I'm so happy to be doing this. Sometimes it'll be all three of us, you guys. Sometimes it might be two of us. Sometimes we might have a guest that I'm interviewing and Jeannie or Adam won't be here, or maybe they'll be the ones doing the interview. But I want you to know that it really is all what's in the highest in service to you. Speaking of which, one of the things that's happened that is an interesting insight that I got even more deeply. You ever get that, you guys, where you have insights and then you have another experience and it just goes deeper, where you're like, oh my God, I already get that I've been a victim of the past. I already get that sometimes I look at life. Probably 15 years ago, I would have looked at what's happening in the world right now and just completely wanted to go under the covers and be a victim of what's going on as an identity. I can't do anything about it. I'm powerless, right? Instead, last night I'm having a phone call with my mom, and I'm realizing that I have not called her all week. And I usually speak to my mother twice a week or 3 times a week, sometimes 4 times a week. And I love talking to my mom and my dad. I love to connect with them. And what happened last night was that I connected with them, but I hadn't realized, honestly, how much I miss talking to them when I don't, and how grounding they are. A dear friend of all of us, her father just passed, and that's her second parent that passed. It just really struck me. Like, one day we all don't have our parents, and one day we as a parent will be gone, and our kids will, all of that will move on. And I just realized more deeply the relationship with their heart and their essence matters so much, because that relationship is going to transcend time. And I just had one of these teary moments relating to the death of the world, the way it's been, the death of some stuff around our parents, the death of old ways of being individually, and that the excitement. So this is one of those concepts that I really love. That's part of the evolution of this thriving operating system that we're talking about, that our relationship with our future self, our relationship with what's possible our relationship with possible. It's so, Adam's shaking his head because Adam and I have been typing and we can hear it, and we're such perfectionists. You can't do that, but we can't help ourselves. We do it anyways. So there's humanness in the middle of podcasts, which is what, and Jeannie Adam had a
Stop
chat
breathing.
with both of us that we're not allowed to breathe either. So the point is that we're human, right? We're all human. But I love this idea of the old dying. Do we have to mourn it or grieve it for long lengths of time because we're attached? Or if we hook our wagon to the future that we're creating and the relationship to the essence of what's growing within us, how does it change our relationship to what's leaving? Because, man, I know a lot of people being catalyzed right now to something new. So, Jeannie, you were going to say?
Oh no, I'm feeling the same way. Like it just feels, I know you and I had this conversation last week about it just really feels like there's a rebirthing happening, and I can feel it. And I know where my mind, and especially my ego, it wants to judge it. It wants to take score that how I'm feeling is not the greatest, and there has to be something that I need to do. Give me the happy pill. Give me the magic protocol. Give me the specific meditation to get me out of my rut. And at the end of the day, it's what would love for myself do? From a space of where I've been attached to my identities as a mom, as a wife, as a friend, as a sister, as a daughter. It's like, it's always been serving others versus what does it look like for me to be able to, what does grounding look like for me? And it's even judging, that it's also staying open to that, because I've never been much of a meditator because it's like, I find it boring. But you know what? I love walking with the dogs. I love, going out in the garden and pulling weeds. It's meditative for me. I love vacuuming. So from that space, it's what does it look like to be really a champion of my vibration at every moment?
Oh yeah. Reset meaning, and just so everyone understands, it's like going out and making sure that we actually take space between the projects and the conversations and the things that we're doing, such that we plug back into the creativity and the beauty of life to have spaciousness, reset our energy, reset our relationship to life, not just go from one thing. I think in the corporate world, they call it, what is it, Adam? Channel changing? No, it's not called channel changing. Yeah, and there's another word too. I can't remember what it is. It's all good. We don't have to get the word right. So the whole thing is that using one part of your brain and then going to another part of creativity and then going another part of creativity, it really requires a clearing of the decks of what you've done before. And the thing is, I think that's partially what grieving the old is, right?
And it's also wisdom. It's also the wisdom of knowing that you cannot get to that place of peace from the space of overwhelm and being pulled and irritability. That's where for me, it's okay. What does it really look like to be a champion of my frequency, no matter what?
And yeah, absolutely. And by the way, one of our listeners, Carolyn, just came up with the word. It's context switching. That's exactly what I was thinking. We're sharing a brain cell, Carolyn. So guys, we're coming up on an era shift, and that era shift really requires a certain level of being able to plug in that we call the thriving operating system. And that thriving operating system is something that is threaded through every single one of our programs. We're all about that system that allows us to shift with the shifts, even when everything is sped up in a quantum way and an AI way. Adam Lamb, what can they do to make sure they're always connected to this program?
Wow, what a pitch. So we're very happy to announce that the Thriving Life podcast with Jennifer Huff will finally be going live across all podcast platforms. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the other aggregators like CastBox and some of those, coming this Wednesday the 15th at 5 a.m. in the morning. There'll be 4 brand new episodes that will appear. We'd really love your help if you could comment, and share those particular 4 episodes. I think you really like them. Curated them over the last 20 shows that we've done. And moving forward, we're going to be releasing a new episode across all the podcast platforms every Wednesday morning, so that you can go into your weekend with a weekly dose of the Thriving Life podcast with Jennifer Huff.
Just a little activation of what's possible for your life, but not just a little activation, sometimes just a boot in the butt. And remember,
or a hammer to the head, either way.
Or the big cosmic 2x4 to the side of the head when you just haven't been listening. But we promise it. So guys, I'm excited. And I want to thank Adam in advance for just being the badass that you are around the back end, typing away. I love you so much.
But I bought specifically a silent keyboard so I can do that. There are such things as silent keyboards.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is not silent.
That's not the way Jennifer does it.
So, and then it needs to use its inside voice.
Inside voice, right.
And then Jeannie, thank you. Actually, both of you are so vulnerable. Like, you guys activate that in me. But Jeannie, thank you for bringing that sort of grounded wisdom of the real in that wonderful house you have of dogs and kids and sweeties and stuff. And we're looking forward to flying with you guys. And of course, when you catch us on social media, then you can ask questions and we can bring up in some of the podcasts. So make sure you do. We're looking forward to it. Here's to the launch of something we're so proud of called the Thriving Life Podcast. Here's to all the future guests. Here's to our evolution and being way out ahead of all the change in this world. Thanks for being a part of the Thriving Life Podcast.
So join us every Monday at 12 noon across our social media platforms for the live stream. And then Wednesday for a new episode of the Thriving Life Podcast.
Love you guys.
Big
Bye.
hugs.